Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me again. Who is here so far? And I'm streaming on only YouTube. Okay, I know I used to stream everywhere, but right now I'll be streaming on YouTube. So if you find me, I'll try to leave clues on how to find me. Can you hear me? Is it clear? Let me know. Hey, Christine, how are you? Ooh, this is going to be good. You know, it's a lot of information. Empress Vibe, she's got her popcorn. Hello, thanks for joining. So, I want to talk about a woman that came across my radar. Maybe I'm trying to think. I think it was last year. Her name is Denise George, okay? I want us to think about her because she has a very critical role in this case. Hello, Jamel. Hello, Jamel. Where have you been? I thought you didn't love me anymore, Jamel. Jamel, I remember him from last year. How are you? It's been a long time. Everybody's coming in. Losha, you're here? Oh my goodness. Losha, this is like every time I log on, I feel like I'm having a family reunion. Sharon, hello. Laura, Tam, Gemini. Oh, great. I'm so grateful. And Raylene is from Northern California. Oh, I feel for you out there. Hello, Faith. Thanks for joining. This is fabulous. So I want to jump right in, okay? And I want to talk to you about a woman. I want you all to know her name, okay? You know how I had the whole Dr. Timothy Jarrell Cunningham? She is also somebody that I feel is going to be critical. And I want to get your opinion on people in this particular space, okay? I know we have a lot going on to be distracted from. And I believe that people right now are so tense about all of the distractions that are taking us away from this case, okay? Now, I know about the Aubrey case. I know, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. Now, those cases are local and we have our opinions, okay? But I want us to realize that this is a case that needs to be talked about. This needs to be bigger than the OJ case, okay? It has nothing to do with race, with political affiliations. This is literally about children. Now, this is one of those things that it's upsetting, but this is why a lot of us woke up to these very hard facts, okay? So I want to jump right in. I want to say hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm going to jump in and see who's here. Maybe Girl Code will be available. If you're available, if you have any insight on what I'm going to talk about when it comes to the Maxwell. I know we have our thing about her pronunciation, Ghislaine or Ghislaine, whatever, G Maxwell. Somebody said, we could call her G Maxwell. Now, I'm doing a bit of a circle back. And the reason I'm doing this is because we are going to put together a few pieces of this very complex puzzle. A lot of the information started to stream out last year. I captured a lot of it. I lost my initial Instagram page and I had a lot of things plugged in there. But good thing I saved like pictures and things like that. This woman came across my radar. It might be because I used to live in St. Croix, Virgin Islands. So I lived there back in college. My parents moved there. Actually, my stepfather had a job with Hess Oil, which is, they had a refinery down there. So that's why we had to move to St. Croix. I was in college, so I didn't get to enjoy the island other than my breaks from school. But I got to know a little bit about the culture down in the Virgin Islands. And I later took a nursing assignment back in the early 2000s down in St. Croix. So the nursing assignment that I took, it was at their one hospital, and I worked there, and I got to learn even more, because once you work in a culture, you get to really see a lot more. And it was very interesting. I'll just get into a little bit about it, as we go along. So I want to talk about Denise George. Okay, she's the lady in the picture right here. Denise George became the U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General. Okay, so her being the Attorney General, she came in 2019. Now, she has made a very bold stance, okay? And she had requested, when I learned about her, she requested 20 years of flight logs involving Little St. James Island and Greater St. James Island. So for anybody who has if you're familiar with the Virgin Islands, it's several. You have the British Virgin Islands, you have the U.S. Virgin Islands, which they are U.S. territory. Now, oh wait, Raylene says, oh, Jen, I lived on St. Thomas in the late 80s. Wow. So you were down there when my parents lived in that area. They lived, of course, St. Croix, but St. Thomas, not too far. You could even see St. Thomas on a clear day, right, Raylene? So you'll know a lot about what I'm going to bring up, Raylene. Anybody else who's had if you visited the Virgin Islands, it's changed a lot since the 80s, but a lot of places have, right? So again, U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Denise George, she requested these flight logs. Now, she did this because she is wanting to get justice for the victims of. Now, when we talk about Jeffrey Epstein and the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, it is the same for Ghislaine Maxwell. Their victims are the absolute same. So this is why his name, you can't separate the two. They were in conjunction in this big enterprise, okay? So she wants to get the flight logs. I'm not sure if she got them. I want to contact her office. I sent a message over on YouTube, but I want to contact and see if there's anything I can find out. If any of you have any, connection to Denise George, her office, her team. She has a massive team of people. She has the Deputy Attorney General, Thomas Jacobs, and Carol Thomas Jacobs, I think, Solicitor General Pamela Tepper, Chief of Civil Division Ariel Smith, and the Director of Sex Offender Registry, Shani Penny. So that's the team that's working with her. And then there's a lady who may be the press secretary or, that handles the press. Her name is Sandra Gumansing. And I don't have as many ties to St. Croix like I used to. I have a good friend who, I could call on her and see what she knows. And I want to say, for anybody who lives in the Virgin Islands, if you are in St. Thomas, St. Croix, or, St. John, I want to say that if you know anything, I know that you've been encouraged to come forward and help the Attorney General, her team, because in a small island, you all know what a microcosm that is. And I want to just share that when I was in St. Croix, I was shocked because it was like living in a small town here in America. I would be in the hospital getting maybe a snack at the vending machine, and I had a really good friend who had a restaurant in the town in Christiansted. Like, she had a restaurant that was really popular. So a lot of the business people and tourists came to her restaurant, and they knew that I was her friend because I was always there. Me and my daughter, she had children, and my daughter was like their little sister. So when I would come to see her when I got off of work or whatever, or had a day off, she would say, "Hey, Jenny, oh my God, somebody saw you at the hospital and they said that you were at the snack machine and she named, like, you got a Sprite and you got a pack of potato chips." They knew exactly what I got. And I share that because it shocked me. I was like, who would know that to come and tell my friend? It wasn't like they were doing it maliciously, but I had to get used to the fact that I lived in like a fishbowl, and people were observing me wherever I went, because especially they knew that I was from the mainland, or they call you a continental. So they really they were curious about me. And I learned that a few of them thought that I worked for the DEA, because at the time I would wear the cargo pants, like, back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the cargo pants were real popular. So I wore those and I was really fit. Okay. And I was walking around a lot because I was shipping a car down to, and it took a while for the car to get there. So I was like walking a lot and I was really in good shape. So I had sort of like, musculature arms or whatever. And my build, and I'm tall, I'm a 5'10" woman. So a lot of people would stare at me. And I found out, somebody told me, they said they thought that I was an agent of some sort, whatever alphabet agency it was. But one of the things that I noticed, it was a lot of agents in that area. And now that I'm thinking back, I can think that it was a lot going on. Okay. When you just have a gut feeling, you don't know what's going on, but there's something very seedy going on. And I thought it was just that, the place had changed since the 80s, when everything was booming there. But they've had the Hurricane Hugo and the things that happen with the downturn of the economy, and it hits a small island harder. And also some of their government corruption and things like that. You learn that when you live in a place and the people begin to talk to you. And so that's what I mean. Once I worked as a nurse at the one hospital that was on the island, I got to learn a lot, okay? More than I wanted to know. But one thing I want to go back to, and for anybody who lives in a small town, people know things, okay? And I'm saying that to say that there are a lot of people that know more about this Epstein Maxwell case. There are so many people, and I'm starting to realize this is bigger than we even could imagine, okay? Even here in the States, we focus on that island because, I don't know, it's something very intriguing about an island, and they bring it up and it's beautiful. It's a destination that people, love, places like that in the Caribbean. But let us not take our eye off of the fact that many crimes were committed in Palm Beach, Florida, in Texas, in New Mexico, as well as London, because Ghislaine had a property in London and wherever else. Okay. They had places all over. So I want to talk about that, because that seems to be an area that people, I want them to, come forward. We have to see justice here. And I know people may feel a little bit jaded, like, these rich and powerful people get away with things all the time, but we have to be in prayer. This is a huge case, okay? And I'm going to keep saying it. This is a huge case. And people may want us to focus and look here. We need to be looking here at the Ghislaine Maxwell case and the trial that is going to be kicking off on Monday, everybody, the 29th. and it's going to go for 6 weeks. And I want you to meet me here. I'll try to come daily, if maybe not twice. Once it starts, when things start to really happen, I know we're not going to get live coverage, but as much as we can get. And you notice, if you do any research, the media is not giving this the amount of attention that they would give to anything that would divide us racially. And, they like to really cause all this division. And they want to focus on local cases. This is far larger than a local case. It involves children, not one person, many children. So I want us to realize that that's what's happening. They want us to not be concerned about this. Now, like I said, in a small town or a small island like St. Croix, like St. Thomas, people know things. They really do. They know more than you would want them to know. In fact, as a nurse, one of the things I was shocked, and I had to get used to it, is I would witness people talking about the medical information. Like if somebody was admitted to the hospital, the governor Juan Louis, I forget the name of it. They would call somebody on the phone, say, a coworker. They knew that somebody was admitted, and they know the person's cousin. They would call like right then, and they would say, "Oh, your cousin is here," and they would just start telling why the cousin's here. And I'm like, "Are you serious? What about HIPAA?" And you know what? I couldn't be like one of those people that, "Oh, I'm trying to tell these islanders what to do." This was their culture. And, they didn't abide by HIPAA like we did, okay? And like really scared about it, because I'm coming from a place where I'm working out in Los Angeles, and I'm taking care of celebrity, patients. And I was so paranoid about saying anything about a patient, okay? But that's the things that, I had to get used to, the looseness of it all. So that's why I'm saying I know that people knew about this sex trafficking of children. And this attorney general, she stated that many people would see Jeffrey Epstein flying into St. Thomas, into the airport there, private jets, of course. This is not commercial. So they're flying in private jet, waiting to get a helicopter over to Little St. James. And I also want to say that Little St. James is not the only island in the Virgin Islands. I learned from listening to Denise George that Greater St. James is also an island in question, okay? That they did some expansion and they could hide some of the things that they were doing, okay? So this deals with the property. And you know how we heard that there were some executive orders that were written that anybody involved in human trafficking, they would lose their properties, their finances would be seized. And we have to go back to that. And I want us to work as a team and figure a lot of this out. This is not me being an expert on the case. I want to learn this with you as we go along. If you are a more expert in this case, please let me know. I'll put my email in the description. And if there's something that you know about this case, come on and help us put this together. Thank you, Kate. That's executive order for anybody that's new to this, okay? Because it doesn't matter if you are coming in, and we have been on this stuff since we started this journey last year, a lot of us, or sooner than that, 2016, when the whole thing kind of opened up. I don't want to say those names, but it involves a food that, everybody, they treated us like crazy conspiracy theorists, but it was a lot there. So the executive order for anybody that is new to this, There was an executive order signed by President Donald J. Trump that anybody who was involved in the trafficking of human beings, this order would, they would have things seized, okay? Property, like I said, bank accounts, anything, companies. And thank you, Kate, for the number. That's the executive number. If you want to begin research, that's a place that you can start to look at that executive order 13848. Thank you so much. So yeah, submarines too. Thank you, Charlotte. And that's what I'm saying. If I say anything again, everybody, I want you to correct me. I am not sensitive about that. I am not some kind of expert. I have just been doing research. I care about these children. I care about justice coming for these victims as they are now adult women. It is horrendous what these people have gone through. And I don't like that certain people get away with everything and they feel that they're above the law. It is time for the day of reckoning and justice to come. So that's why I'm so passionate. And thank you, Charlotte. Submarines as well. And we're going to get into that backstory of Ghislaine. I may not have a lot of time to talk about her being a submarine pilot, everyone. So if you didn't know, Ghislaine Maxwell, she could pilot aircraft and she could pilot submarines. That is not a normal thing, okay? Sometimes men, when they have children, if they're involved in this intelligence kind of stuff, they will teach their children, especially flying. Like I had to get flying lessons, okay? My father got me flying lessons to learn how to fly like just Cherokee Warrior planes. So it is an interesting thing that certain, children, that's one of the things that they learn. But one of the things that Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, they had other people besides Ghislaine that were recruiting young girls. And a lot of the women that did the recruitment, they learned how to fly airplanes. As you can imagine, that is a key skill that you would want if you live on an island or you have a property like that or properties all around. You would want people in your association to know how to fly aircraft. Okay, so that is another thing. Allison's back. Hello, Allison. Thank you for coming back for another one. Yes, and Charlotte, yes, thank you. And I'm so glad that we are here. I will try, like I said, to come back as much as possible. And so let me get on with the information that I wanted to share today. So let me go to, and this is important, okay, in terms of the money. Money is going to be very key here. And sometimes we miss that part because now when you see the women that I showed yesterday, and you could see that they're very broken. I could see it as soon as I started seeing their pictures last year and stuff. I could see the broken spirit in these women. And it's so heartbreaking because we see them as adults now. And I want to remind you again, they were children. They were little girls. So imagine the little girls going through this. And I'm going to go to an article right now and bear with me. And this is upsetting. I know it can be a triggering thing for people that have had these kind of traumas, and I feel for you. And I want you to know that there is justice. I do believe, I have to believe in justice. So let me make this bigger so you can read it along with me. Okay, so a 15-year-old girl tried to swim from Jeffrey Epstein's island to St. Thomas after being raped. She was captured and punished. So when they would find the girls, when they tried to escape, Epstein and Ghislaine, they had search parties, and they would go and get the girl and bring her back, and they would punish her for trying to escape. So we're dealing with some of the cruelest people you can imagine. So the crimes committed by now deceased billionaire, and I know we have our opinions if he is deceased, but we're going to go with this. And deceased billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and his associates right here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So this is the Virgin Islands consortium that I'm reading from. For multiple years were laid bare today in a civil lawsuit filed by the Virgin Islands Department of Justice. The suit, announced by VI Attorney General Denise George, alleges that Mr. Epstein, and let's put in there Maxwell, used a web of shell companies, charitable organizations, and other corporate entities to conceal years of rape, human trafficking, and other abuses of women and young, I'll say children, they use females here, on Little St. James and Great St. James off the coast of St. Thomas. While all the allegations were egregious, the revelation of a 15-year-old girl attempting to swim from the Epstein estate to St. Thomas after being raped brought to the forefront the high level of criminal and unconscionable activity that is alleged to have occurred in the territory for years unchallenged. Okay? And I want us to really get that into our mind. It was unchallenged because Jeffrey Epstein, he paid a lot of people off. He had non-disclosure agreements. There were so many people that have to be involved in such a widespread criminal conspiracy. So we focus on just a few people. There are so many people. That's why this case is huge. And I want to talk to any melanated people, any Latino people that feel that this is just, and I want us to be real. If they think this is just an issue of blonde-haired women, white women, no, you are sadly mistaken, because I'm going to get into the fact that there were many melanated and Latina women as well, and Latina children, girls, okay? They were of all persuasions. And there is a link to Haiti. So if anybody wants to get into this race thing and they don't think that they should be concerned, and you want to be more concerned about the stuff that the media spins to keep us divided, because I have a lot of people that unfriend me over, I know it's this kind of stuff. I've lost friends of mine that have been lifelong friends because they thought I should be more concerned about George Floyd and all these other things. They want to tell me what to be concerned about. Well, let me tell you one thing, anybody who would say that, you are going to really be surprised to know that everybody needs to be concerned about this. Everybody. This involves all kinds of races of people, children. It's just that you're seeing one thing right now in the press. So I just wanted to get that off of my mind right now, because I know that that is something, it's a sticking point. And that's why they keep us divided. And this stuff happens and gets unchallenged, okay? So again, going back to this article, according to a statement from Miss George, participants in the Epstein enterprise, okay, it was an enterprise, used deception, fraud, and coercion to entice and lure vulnerable girls, some as young as 13 years old, into human sex trafficking with promises to help them and their families pay for school, pay for health care, and other financial needs. So the lawsuit says that one 15-year-old victim was forced into sexual acts with Epstein and others, and then attempted to escape by swimming off the Little St. James Island. A search party captured the underage child and returned her to captivity. Her passport was taken, according to the lawsuit. Another allegation involving a different victim alleged that she was recruited to give Epstein massages, then was eventually forced into sex acts. When she attempted to escape the island, Epstein and a search party found her and threatened to harm or physically restrain her if she refused to participate. So there are several, you can read through this. It goes into the details. I will put the clips there for you to read, but I want to go back to a fact that was mentioned. I want to talk about the fact that there are so many vulnerable people. And if you've done a bit of traveling and you go to places where they consider it third world, okay, impoverished, what that does is it leaves the children and the women the most vulnerable, okay? I have gone back to Cuba, okay, and we know what's happened to Cuba, why it was devastated. When I've gone to Cuba, they have a two economy system, okay? They have two currencies. One for the Cuban people, one for the more elite people, one, or the tourist, okay? And that keeps the people more poor. It is very exploitative. So I would go to like a tourist. I'm a tourist there. So of course I'm staying in tourist places. I'm going to beaches that they don't allow the regular people to go. And this is something that can escape your glance. You may not see it right away. But if you know about communism and things like that, you'll know what you're seeing. So the children would be at the beach and they see you and they know you're not from there. They can just look at you and tell. It's something about the way we look. And they try to talk to you. They may want, just to talk. It wasn't a lot of begging and things like that you may see in other nations. I have to say, not a lot of begging. But they just are curious, very loving people. But I noticed that there were some girls that they would be with, say, a really like a gross looking man, and you could hear an accent. Like I saw one in particular once, and he was a German man. I'm not speaking against Germans, okay? I just want you to know the people that visited Cuba, they tend to be from places like that, okay? Certain countries that have more of relations with Cuba. So I happened to see this young, girl, Cuban, and she was with this gross man speaking German, whatever. And you could see that she was so uncomfortable. She was dressed with, heels and makeup. You could tell she was trying to look older. But they call these girls in Cuba jinateras, okay? And these girls are given money. They're rented, okay? They rent the girls for like however long they're there. And Europeans take longer vacations. They don't do the 2 weeks like we do. They take months, okay? So it's called a holiday. So however long that this guy was there, he had rented this young girl. And what they do is they bring clothes to them and lots of gifts. And they entice them, and they go to their poor family, and they promise to feed the family. They may buy a refrigerator for the family and fill it with food. And this is what they do to get the girl. And you can imagine being so poor that you would sell your daughter or rent your daughter out to somebody. This is sad. This is really something that we have to be aware of. And this is when people become impoverished. These are the things that happen, that the elite take advantage of these situations. So I just wanted to share that so and you may recall things. And I've even seen, and it's not just Europeans that do this. Americans do this. American men go overseas. They go to Central and South America, and they will exploit the women. and the children. And we have to stop this. We have to get our hearts right. And I'll get into why a lot of this has been on the increase at another time, because I have some theories about why this has really crept up into these really high numbers that we have no idea how high. But I wanted to share that. So I'm going to stop my screen and let me see. I have my notes here, and I want to refer to another article. And like I said, I will attach the articles that I go over if you want to have them in your information as well. Okay, so let's go to this Vanity Fair. Okay, let me make it bigger so you can read. And let me plug in my plug for my laptop. I don't want it to get out of juice there. Okay, so this is Vanity Fair, and I will again give you these links. The title is "The Jeffrey Epstein Virgin Islands Investigation Could Unveil New Flight Logs." Attorney General Denise George is looking for more information about Epstein's infamous jet. And again, we know that they were also piloting submarines. So I'm sure that's going to be included in the logs. Okay, so in 2014, Jeffrey Epstein set up a bank. Do you hear that? He set up a bank in the Virgin Islands where he also had a home. The Attorney General there, Denise George, has been investigating his estate, accusing its representatives of using non-disclosure agreements with Epstein's victims and employees to shield continuing criminal conduct, and saying that certain bank transactions before and after his death haven't been explained. George's inquiry has already extended into a previous Ghislaine Maxwell lawsuit. And on Sunday, the Daily Mirror, which is ironic because the Mirror was one of the publications of Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who had a publishing empire. Okay, so just table that. Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment. So they reported that she is now seeking flight logs for Epstein's 4 helicopters and 3 planes from 1998 to 2019. Thank goodness that she came on the scene. She came on again, I'll repeat, 2019. As the fallout from Epstein's ring of abuse continues to unfold, his international travel has remained a subject of focus, both because of the crimes he committed aboard his aircraft and the high-profile names including Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. Thank you all for correcting me. I know I said Prince Albert. Sorry, Prince Albert. Okay, I used your name yesterday. All of this, we're human, okay? So Prince Andrew. And thank you all. I welcome you to correct me. Okay, so Prince Andrew that have previously turned up in flight logs. According to the Mirror, George is also seeking complaints or reports of potentially suspicious conduct. So anybody who may have been traveling in those areas, if you live in the Virgin Islands and you know something, please contact Attorney General Denise George and her team. Please be brave. Please come forward. We need you to come forward right now. We need to see justice. You know something, say something. This is your time to do something. Stand up. So she's seeking these complaints and reports, as well as pilots. If you were a pilot, okay, and you can't sleep at night, your pillow is not soft right now because you know that you were piloting children, okay? I don't care if you needed the money, you needed extra money or something, you were enticed, you were blackmailed. There is a clause, and anybody who knows this kind of stuff, I'm not an expert on the law, but if you come forth and you give testimony in a case like this, your non-disclosure agreements and things that you agree to, it will not hold. And maybe a person was involved. You need to clear your conscience, okay? You need to come forward. We need people to come forward. This is the time. So let's see. So the pilot's personal notes and contact information for anyone who worked for the pilots or interacted with or observed Epstein and other passengers. And again, some people that were at the airport, if you worked in the towers and you would see Epstein on the tarmac with children, and they'd have shopping bags from Louis Vuitton and all these designer stores that they would take them shopping. If you saw these things happening, you knew it wasn't right. In your gut, you know that is suspicious because it was happening all the time. If you witness stuff like that, please, again, come forward. So the New York Post reported on Monday that Georgia's subpoena says that Jet Aviation Holdings USA Inc. must hand over the requested documents within 30 days of being served. It's not known when the document was served, but the tabloid said that it was dated September 3rd. So that was last year, everybody. Georgia's office hasn't returned a request for comment from Vanity Fair. So I don't know if she would return my request, but who knows, if I may find something, being a smaller little researcher, I may come across some stuff. We never know. While a number of Epstein flight logs have already been made public and poured over, including a batch that pilot David Rogers produced in 2009, the Mirror suggested that the subpoena could result in new revelations about his associates. The records that have been subpoenaed will make the ones Rogers provided look like a Post-it note. An unnamed legal source told the tabloid, "There is panic among many of the rich and famous." There is panic. So we know that there's panic, right? And as it should be, because the tentacles of this case reach far and wide. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein created companies. Now, companies are corporate entities. They're like people. They're looked at as people. So he would have various shell companies, and you've heard about this. You know that people that are into Ponzi schemes, banking, all kinds of criminality, they will go offshore and have offshore accounts. Now, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, they went as far as to create a whole bank. Okay, so this is how deep this goes. And let's see, I'm going to share another one, and then we're going to talk a little bit more, get a little backstory on Ghislaine. And, I want to hear what you all think about it. Let's see. I talked about the flight logs, the 15-year-old girl, and this is another one. Let's see. Okay. It's Vanity Fair, and it's 2020, February. The title is "They're Trying to Protect Their Friends." That's a quote. U.S. Virgin Islands AG outraged at Epstein estate's efforts to control the case. Denise George says NDAs prevent former Epstein employees from speaking. One told her that he saw Prince Andrew on a balcony out at Little St. James groping girls right out in the open, and that the estate's restitution process is unfair to victims. Attorneys for the estate of Jeffrey Epstein are attempting to hide his assets and cover up his crimes, according to the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands. In an exclusive interview with Vanity Fair, so I guess she did contact them, Attorney General Denise George accuses the estate of using non-disclosure agreements with Epstein's victims and former employees to conceal the criminal activity of Epstein and his associates who are still there. So as of 2020, they were still on the island. Did you all know that? Oh, wow. Last month, George, who was Miss Virgin Islands in 1977, attended Howard University School of Law and returned to spend decades as a successful prosecutor, also placed liens on the estate in order to make sure his victims received their due. If he owns anything else that's not connected to here, then we will have no jurisdiction, George said in her office in St. Thomas Government Employees Retirement System building. As the investigation continues, we will find that out. But as of now, as far as what is in the estate, it appears that a substantial amount is connected to his entities right here in the Virgin Islands. The people who worked on Epstein's island tended to his various companies, such as Southern Trust, drove his boats, piloted his planes, and probably know more about Epstein's activities than anyone else, and are all likely bound by non-disclosure agreements. An employee told me that he saw, I read that, Prince Andrew out on a balcony groping a child. He said he remembered waking up to him saying, "Good morning, Your Highness." Oh, goodness. Buckingham Palace declined to comment. Prince Andrew has denied any knowledge of Epstein's systematic and long-running abuse of children. But accusations against friends and associates of Epstein's are impossible to investigate, George says, unless the estate agrees to release former employees from the NDAs they were required to sign when they went to work for the convicted sex offender on his private island. Now, I just said that I heard somewhere, anybody who knows about law, since we are dealing with a man who died, are they still bound by their non-disclosure agreements? Let me know. Jay Blair is saying Southern Trust is, oh, really? Thank you, Jay. How are you? Thank you for stopping by. And I'll get into the chat and see what you all are saying. I just want to get through some of this stuff. Okay, so I left off at the estate. Okay, so this is the answer to my question. Okay, the estate is going to have to cooperate with law enforcement and release these employees so they can feel comfortable to come forward, she says. They have to be allowed to speak up. All right. In addition, George says Epstein's estate has proposed creating a fund that would compensate his victims only if they agree not to sue anyone associated with the crimes. It is common practice that if you settle a claim with the other party, then you do not file any claims against that party, which would be the estate, George says. But to expand it to include Jeffrey Epstein's friends, there are victims who have been raped by other people. You know, you have to consider they brought lots of celebrities and heads of states and royalty and, you know, all kinds of moguls down to that island. So he and Ghislaine were not the only ones raping these children. There are victims who have been raped by other people. That alone, that they would put those words in there, tells you where they're coming from. They're trying to protect their friends, and it's not fair to the victims. Okay, so I'll stop there. And basically, I know that civil lawsuits, people always accuse the people of wanting money, but we have to think about this in a different way. A lot of these women now, they were children. The amount of abuse that they endured is beyond anything that I can comprehend. Now, I've taken care of people that have been through things like this, and I can tell you this is a battle, and this is a soul, wound so deep. And they should have compensation, or if you want to say restitution, reparations for all that has happened. I know, Adam, money don't fix it. But you know what? A lot of these people, Adam, the thing about going through life after having this kind of trauma, they don't live a normal life. They may not be able to even hold a job because they have so many psychiatric problems. Can you imagine? They can't do the things like go out and have a lot of them can't even have relationships with people, with men. You know what I'm saying? So they may not, they may not be able to even conduct life like you would think, okay? And they may have also arrested development, because a lot of times when you go through trauma as a child, your development is arrested. So there are things that, money cannot take away all of the trauma. It can't do anything to touch the trauma. But at least they can live a life that, if they're suffering financially, right? They deserve that money. Do you know there are billions of dollars floating out there of this criminal enterprise? Who should that money go to? Because we do have to talk about money. We really do. When they dissolve all the properties, who should that money go to? It should go to the victims. Do you agree? Am I off base? Where should the money go? Because Ghislaine and Jeffrey, they were living a life of luxury, and they had everything you can imagine. What if these women now need therapy and whatever else? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I want us to talk about money and think about the totality of this, that they deserve reparations. And I'll use that word. That's a hot button word, but I don't care. So let's see, where was I? Oh, I want to share this now. I'm going to talk about her, Ghislaine, a bit. So for anybody who's just joining, I'm talking about the properties and how they get seized when they find out that they have been involved in human trafficking. There is an executive order, and the properties, the companies, everything will be seized. It will be, the words are forfeited, divestiture of property used in the course of the crimes. Okay, so the crimes being trafficking, like I said, child sex abuse and exploitation. Okay, and this is, for anybody who's just joining, the woman that you see here in the picture. Her name is Attorney General Denise George of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and she is really key. She needs to be talked about more, everybody, because I see her as a hero. That she came on the scene. For anybody who's just joining, she came on the scene in 2019, and she came with, blazing, okay? And she's demanding a lot of accountability here. So you can see Ghislaine here in the mask, and Jeffrey in the middle, and Harvey Weinstein of all people. Now, I want to say something. I don't want to offend our military people because I truly appreciate everything you do. I heard, and I need to back this up. Allegedly, I heard that when Ghislaine was on the lam and she was running and they were looking for her everywhere, I heard that she was being at some point when she was like a nomad because she couldn't go and stay anywhere permanently. But I heard that she was being hidden by some SEALs, by some Navy SEALs. Can you imagine? That's something that's being said. Now, I'm not giving it credence, but has anybody else heard that it was like Navy SEALs? Some Navy, I guess the rogue military was also, because we have deep state military as well. But that's what I heard. That's pretty disturbing. But Jeffrey Epstein's getup that he has on here, who are my military people that know some of this, some of these medals and insignia that he's wearing? Because I heard that it could possibly be, maybe, is that anything to do with the Navy SEALs? Just let me know. Because that's pretty disturbing. Like I said, yeah, I don't know, but we'll come back to that if we find out that that's so. Maybe that's something that, we can, table that and look into it a little bit more. Now, this is a picture of Ghislaine is the baby that the older girl is holding. That's one of her older sisters. Now, she was a daddy's girl. Her father, Robert Maxwell, for anybody that didn't know how powerful of a man he was, he escaped Czechoslovakia. Okay, he was born into a Hasidic family, and they escaped the Holocaust. He went into England. He helped the British troops fight in the war, and he ended up, settling in London. And he developed a media empire that would include the Mirror. Like I said, we would, the Mirror, Pergamum Press, which was they did scientific journals, and Macmillan. So if you recall the textbooks that are in schools, Macmillan will come to mind. So Macmillan, scientific journals by Pergamum Press, and his rival would be Rupert Murdoch. That's how big he was in the publishing world. And he had other companies too. Now, they made no qualms that Ghislaine was his favorite child, okay? I don't know if you grew up in a family where there were favorites, but she was the baby. She was born on Christmas Day, and her father considered her a Christmas present. So he was crazy about her, and he said that she reminded him of himself. So she had a really close relationship with him. They said that he was a very stern patriarch, but Ghislaine, she had that way where she knew how to charm her father and get him to do anything. He was abusive, they said, towards the mother and the other children. In fact, some of her siblings have assumed new identities because they really don't want anything to do with that legacy. We have heard that some of her siblings have come forward and they're petitioning the UN to get her out of the jail that she's in based on horrid conditions that they feel are not humane. So she does have siblings that are somewhat in her corner. I don't know the whole deal. That's a very complicated thing with siblings. But anyway, she was a brat. She went to Oxford University. She was a party girl. She wasn't very serious. She didn't have to be. She rubbed shoulders with all the elite. And once she got out of college, she was a party girl still. So she went to New York, and she, her father he would set her up in companies and things like that. She didn't really have to do much, but her pairing up with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Epstein was a person who, he did not come from wealth, okay, and comforts. So he was one of those wannabe people, you know, the types that want to be in with the elites. They want to be around rich people, famous people. He was really thirsty for that stuff. So when you have a person who didn't grow up with a lot and they come across a Ghislaine Maxwell or the other guy from Ohio, the Les Wexler, you have somebody who will do anything for money. He has no standards. So this was the Jeffrey Epstein. Now you pair him up with Ghislaine, who we said yesterday, we believe that she was the handler. She's definitely not a victim. She knew how to get him plugged into high society. So this was who she was. And her father, you can see he's teaching her how to play chess. And a lot of the elite, they teach their children to play chess very early in life. So you can just see a lot from this picture, right? And let's see. Now, this is a bit of information for our group here that's going to be a little shocking, okay? Her father loved her so much, of course, and he named his yacht after her, the yacht that he fell off of, and supposedly he fell to his death, suicide, or some people may have some, theories about his death. But he named his yacht Lady Ghislaine, so it's named after her. So let's see, where was I? Okay, so the father wanted her to marry well. And I talked about some of her boyfriends, the 3, boyfriends yesterday. So you could go back to the video yesterday. Now, guess who her father wanted her to marry? Can anybody guess? I'm going to wait. I'm going to sit there and wait. Tell me who you think her father wanted her to marry. And he was going to set this up for her. Please, please. I hope somebody guesses right. Come on, Chatmosphere. Don't let me down. Who do you think? Who was an eligible bachelor back in the 90s? Really big in the society world. You said Donald J. Trump. Oh, that's a good guess. Bill Gates. That's a good guess too. Jeffrey, no, her dad wouldn't want her to marry Jeffrey. He didn't come from money. So he definitely wouldn't be somebody. These people, they want their children to marry into a bloodline that they can combine 2 very powerful families. So who do you think? Who got it right? Who was the first person? Yes, the first person was Kate Jr. That's right, Gold and Crisp. JFK Jr. Can you imagine the audacity? Somebody said Jerry Seinfeld. You were right, Empress. Yes, you got it right. That's who her father wanted her to marry. You got it right. So I believe that, and this is allegedly, okay, so all of you JFK people, do not come after me, okay? I like JFK. I've always liked him and everything, but it's a possibility that they may have had a little rendezvous. 1, okay? We'll just give it 1, okay? I don't want to think that that's possible, but okay, we have to be fair. She was a beautiful woman back in her day. She doesn't look that way now, as she has been on a prison diet, but she was pretty. She's a monster, she's evil, but she was a pretty woman. And, she had the right look. So yeah, I could see John. Okay, we call him John, but John F. Kennedy Jr., he dated a few people. He was linked to some people that we probably wouldn't really think were good for him, okay? But anyway, that was a bit of information that I found quite interesting. Her father thought that that's who she should marry. Okay, so let's go on. Okay, where else? So, this is the woman of the hour, I'm calling her. And let me go to a little, that's right, Madonna was one. Oh my goodness. And I don't know if some of that was just, you know, how you have friends that you hang out with and everybody thinks you're dating them and you're not. It could be some things like that. He was maybe doing it for, I don't know, whatever reasons, you know, people would do that. So let's see. I wanted to go to another thing. Oh, yeah. Let me just play this here. And I'll jump in. I'll jump in and see what you guys are saying. All right. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. Here it is. Yeah, someone said he was young. We'll give him the forbearance, okay? So this was a person who was an eyewitness to he actually went down for a crime that Jeffrey Epstein pinned on him. They were doing some financing and you know, what is it? Ponzi schemes. And so this man went down for the crime. He went to jail, but now he's helping the victims. He's in New York. He's helping some of the victims that have been, you know, coming forth from this large criminal human trafficking ring. So I just want you to just listen to this.
The custody housing is horrible because the change of her lifestyle is so dramatic for her that she's now being held in a very small prison cell 24 hours a day in paper clothing. She's being videoed around the clock. She's being guarded around the clock by staff. She's being moved into a different cell regularly, probably every day or every other day, in order to reduce the risk on her life. She really has to be put into witness custody housing right now. Otherwise, her life is definitely at risk. There's no question that her life is at risk, and she should be transferred at once.
It's alleged that Maxwell and Epstein did carry out abuse over decades, and that they were not prosecuted because they were protected. It is really only under President Trump's presidency that we've seen the attempted prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein and now the current prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, I just wanted to play that little clip. And the main thing I wanted to highlight in that clip was that Ghislaine, whatever, G. Maxwell, she's living in very, very unsocialite circumstances, right? So when she was on the lam, she was a nomad when she was running and hiding and finally got nabbed in New Hampshire. But there was a friend of hers, I read an account, that bumped into her on an airplane in first class. So she wasn't slumming too much, but the person thought that, oh my God, this is her. You know, they were used to her having a full face of makeup, hair done, clothes and everything, but she didn't have any makeup on. Her hair didn't look good. She, of course, was worried. So the thing about this, it doesn't end well. So I know we want to see justice. We must also pray. These are things you can put on your list to pray for justice for these crimes against so many people. They haven't even all come forward because, you know, when some of the young girls came forward, the children, if they did escape this stuff alive, because not all of them escaped alive, when they tried to go to the authorities, they were shut down. You know, some of them said that they would look at some of the girls, their MySpace pages, and if they saw pictures of them acting like teenagers or whatever, or kids, or maybe doing underage drinking and putting it on MySpace, they would use that against them. And they would, they would do things to make them feel like they deserved it or something. And that's horrible to treat victims that way. But it's hard for an adult to come forward. Imagine a young girl coming forward to talk about these things. And you have to think about Ghislaine. She groomed as well as other women. He used women to groom the girls. And the grooming process took, it took a while sometimes. Ghislaine, she would get these girls and they needed money. You heard about Virginia Roberts and some of her accounts. They needed money. And she would take them on shopping trips. She would, she would maybe put makeup on them, do their hair, make them feel like grown up or something. She was like kind of like a big sister or an aunt. And then what they do is she would talk about sexual things. And that's why we have to be very careful about some of the curriculum that they're introducing into our schools. When they start to talk about things that children, they need to remain in a child's place. They don't need their innocence ruined. They don't need to hear about sex until, I don't know, what is your opinion on the age that children, that maybe they could start learning about it? If they ask questions, of course, you don't want to hide it, but to go into these in-depth conversations with children about sex and sex acts and really getting into the nitty-gritty of it, that's horrible. That's grooming. Okay? And that's what she would do. She would talk about sexual things. And then they said she would walk around nude. She would undress in front of them. And then that's when she would deliver them. I call her the trap queen, because she trapped them. Then she would deliver them over to Jeffrey to give him a massage. And that's how it started out. Some of you may know of people that do this. They start with the massage, and that's what he did. And she would deliver them to him, and she would engage in sex as well with Jeffrey and the child. And I'm going to keep saying the child. Jay Blair says age 7. Do you all agree it may be age 7 is when you could start talking about it, as they say, the birds and the bees? But that's Jay's. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about it. But that may be everything I wanted to cover for now. Yeah, that's right. Sunny Day says 12. Belinda, hey, massage was their cover. That's how it started off. Yes. You say high school? No, high school is when you think so. Oh, okay. Towards puberty? Yeah. Well, yeah. We have everybody's different. I don't want to say that, you have to agree with everybody on one thing, but I mean, everybody knows their children. Some children are precocious and, they may ask questions. Misunderstood. You think 7 is too young? Yeah, I kind of, it depends. Me at 7, I was like, gosh, I was the kid that I didn't want to grow up. When my mom bought me a training bra, I probably had like a tantrum. I cried so hard. I didn't even want to wear a training bra. I didn't want to grow up. I wanted to play with my toys, my dolls, and I didn't want to grow up at all. So yeah, it depends on the child. It's a child. It's a case by case. So let's see. I think I wanted to just talk about this beforehand, before we kind of end off. And I wanted to say that I've talked about in a live stream, I talked about my generation. And my generation is Gen X, okay? Now, Gen X, we owe a lot to this younger generation. Now, I got into a little bit of a debate with somebody on a podcast recently, because I realize, and if you're a baby boomer, okay, I'm not trying to come down on you, but we're going to have these conversations, and they're uncomfortable. This new generation, the millennials, the younger millennials, and the ones that are coming after them, they have this, it's like a generational warfare going on between the boomers and the millennials. Are you all aware of that? And Julie says 6th grade, some girls start at that age. So a lot of people are saying 6th to 7th grade. Joyce is saying age 12 to 13. Yeah. This is good. We're having like that, you know, we could all share things. So I'm going back to the generational war that's going on. And this started when I had a podcast and I was talking about the incident that happened in Houston with the Travis Scott concert. A lot of people, they wanted to come down real hard on the young people that went to the concert. And I was just like reeling it back a little and trying to look at it in a balanced way. These young people had been hemmed up all year, almost 2 years on lockdown, and they wanted to get out and have some fun. And we know that that was all, you know, planned out very well. So they get out and they want to get into this festival environment and have a little fun. And a lot of kids are not taught situational awareness and things that they really need to know. So I just want to appeal to the baby boomers, okay? You know how they use that now as a slur? They'll say, okay, boomer, you know? And my daughter told me, this was so upsetting to me. She told me that her generation, the millennials, when the thing first came on the scene, the bat flu, they nicknamed it. Had you heard this? They called it the boomer remover. That's what the millennials, some of them were calling it. And they were actually happy that this was something that was wiping out the boomers. Now, this is part of that division thing that we're going to have to get these things mended. So we not only have racial divisions, political divisions, but we have generational division. My generation, Gen X, we're sandwiched right in the middle, because one day I made a comment and I said, oh, I know you millennials hate my generation, the Gen Xers. You don't want to hear from us. But one of the millennials came back and said, no, we don't hate you Gen Xers. We don't like the boomers. And I was like, whoa. So if you're a boomer and you're not aware of this, this is something that is actually a thing. But I just want us, the boomers, and my generation, Gen X, we owe it to these young people. We really do. And I'm saying this because they have been preyed on. They have been preyed on. When you think about Ghislaine and you think about Jeffrey Epstein had this obsession about youth, okay? And another one was Peter Nygard. He actually would get blood from young people to keep him young. And that's something that in certain generations, like they don't want to get old. They want to do everything and not get old. You know, we get rid of our gray hair. We do the plastic surgery. We do the Botox where you look like this, you know, and it's all this like young, like we worship youth in our culture. Now, I want boomers to be very honest here. It may be uncomfortable, but we have observed some of these things in our culture. We're going to have to look at so many aspects to this case. It actually hits on so many things. And one of them is this quest for youth, okay? Because if you didn't know, Jeffrey Epstein was obsessed with Harvard University. He was obsessed with it. Again, a person who comes from a background that is not wealthy. You know, they tend to glamorize, oh, the Ivy League. He wished that he could have been a rich kid. So he wore Harvard University, you know, hoodies and stuff. And he gave a lot of money to the research. Well, the research that was going on at Harvard and wherever else Jeffrey Epstein gave money to, it was about extension, life extension, genetics, and things like that. That is where we got all of these things. We heard about that serum that they take for what? For youth. So this plays into this. And who are they violating? Young people. It's very vampiric, right? And so I want you to just consider that when we go forward and we talk about these things and we try to understand it's evil. I mean, we can just sum it up to evil, but it's a lot more to it. And I've been giving it a little more thought in that regard because I did a deep dive on, like I said, Peter Nygard. And he would get young women pregnant, if you didn't know that. He was another person who did this stuff down in the Caribbean. He was on an island in the Bahamas. So he would get a lot of girls pregnant. He would have these parties all the time, and he would get women to recruit young women to come, and he would get them pregnant. And then he would talk them into having an abortion. He would use the stem cells, and he would use all this for youth and vigor. And you would see pictures of him. This is an older man, and he's got muscles, and he looks really young and got the suntan and everything. So a lot of times these people don't want to get old. And there are also reports of older people luring younger people into situations where they give their blood, like, they consent to it, and their parents may even consent to letting their children give a direct blood transfusion to one of these people who wants to stay young. So I just wanted to bring that into the discussion. It is very disturbing, but it is something that, when you have this quest for the fountain of youth and all of that, where do you think they're getting the youth? From the youth. Okay? So consider it. And I want to see some of the things you're saying. I want to jump into the convo there. But that's pretty much my presentation that I wanted to talk about. And let's see what you all are saying. Hey, Destiny Rose, you say, oh my gosh, Jennifer, I had not heard that. So horrible, a blood transfusion. Yes, it's very disturbing. But these are the things that we're going to have to understand. The media may not cover this stuff, but this is what's been going on. This is what's going on, okay? They want to even have designer babies. They'll get a young woman to give her eggs up. A lot of young women were making $50,000 and up to donate eggs. Did you know about that? Misunderstand says, I'm a boomer. And, I'm not trying to come down on the boomers. I'm just saying that we have to have these uncomfortable conversations. And like I said, my generation, I feel that we dropped the ball. We really have with this young generation. It's like a wasteland, and we have to do something to reach back. And if you see young people being taken advantage of, we got to speak up, because again, the groomers and the recruiters are women. And that is a shame. That is a disgrace that women are the ones that are recruiting and grooming for these sex trafficking rings. Joyce said that you heard the Red Cross was also, they have all these places popping up everywhere. And, this is another thing that used to hurt my heart. When I would hear of young people giving up plasma, they go down to the plasma bank. These places are popping up everywhere. And these young people, they can't make it on these salaries that they make in these little jobs. They can't afford the rents. So some of them supplement their money with a donation of their blood and their plasma. They do this on a regular basis. That should never be. We have to make this right for this young generation. We owe it to them, people. You may not agree with me, but we owe it to them. We really do. So I just want to say that, yes, exactly, Faith. It's the pimp madam mentality. That's right. And if you're a woman who's ever been engaged in this stuff and you want to come clean and you don't want to go to your grave with this horrible sin, I'll call it that, this horrible crime against other people, this is such a betrayal, there is hope for you. There is redemption for you. You may not have known better. You know, we do better when we know better. Maybe you were in a position that you were vulnerable. And if you have children and they are vulnerable, please reach out to them. If you have a means to help them, especially don't let your daughters be vulnerable out here. You know how the comedian Chris Rock said he'll do everything to make sure his daughter doesn't wind up on a stripping pole? Fathers, okay? Fathers. I know it's not just the father, but it's very important. Our role in helping these young people, we've got to do better. So I want to leave on that note. And I want to thank you all for joining me. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I know that triggers people to even hear that word, but I'm going to say Happy Thanksgiving. If I trigger you, I trigger you. Okay. But we will meet up, and Monday, that's when the trial officially kicks off. So I may come to you on Saturday. Well, let's see. Tomorrow's Thursday. Possibly, if anything comes up that I think, I want to come to you, maybe Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday leading up to it. If you want to keep meeting me up right here, this is the channel. I will leave the links below. And I want to thank you. I love you all in the chatmosphere. If I didn't get to your comments, just thank you so much for coming by. Hey, to Money Honey, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will meet up again. Sharon, Cece, take care, okay? Love you all.